I want to show you how to find domain names, .com domain names that look like you paid thousands of dollars for them.
This video is brought to you by Appy Pie Academy.
And you actually are going to pay either the bare minimum, like $7 or $12, whatever the website will charge you, or even get it for free, because sometimes when you get a hosting from Bluehost or some other hosting companies, they sometimes give you a domain name. So this is going to be cool. So essentially, you might not get a free domain name, which looks like other people might pay thousands of dollars for something similar. And I'm going to walk you through the process. It's not an easy process, and it's not a process that you can replicate step by step, because there's going to be a lot of creativity that I'm going to show you that's going to go into it. And it's not a quick process either. It's going to take you a little bit of time, mainly because you don't want to rush in. If you see something attractive, there's always something better out there, and you always want to kind of sleep on it, right? You always want to sleep on your on a domain name that you saw, because maybe tomorrow you'll look at it again from a different angle and you'll reconsider. You'll think, oh, maybe it's not so great. So now let's get started. So what do we need for this? The way I do this is I open up a tab with a thesaurus, because you're going to constantly want to go through many ideas. And I open up a tab. I use GoDaddy.com. This is not for buying necessarily the domain name. This is just for seeing if the domain name is available, right? So they have a tool. It's very easy. You say hello.com. Obviously, it's going to be taken. Well, let's see. Just for fun. It is taken. Well, yeah, easy to guess that. Sometimes it's actually fun to see, if it's not taken, how much they will want to charge you, because the premium, the very good domains, they can be thousands of dollars. Of course, I'll show you how to get premium looking domains that look and feel just like premium domains but don't cost as much. I'll show you how to find those, but that'll be in a little bit. So now that we have the tools, these are essentially the tools that we need. Personally, I like to use a couple of sheets of paper, or if you have a whiteboard is okay, but I actually also like to brainstorm on a white piece of paper. Obviously, I can't show that on the screen, but I actually did this with a piece of paper half of the time. And what I do is, now these are the tools that you need. Now here are the mental tools that you need. What I do is I conceptualize the brand that I want to create, because remember, here we're going to have a very professional, incredible brand that we're going to get, right? So your brand is your domain name, right? So you're not just, when you're looking at this as a professional, as like, if you want to get an A level, if you want A level results, then the domain that you get should be also, it should be a great brand as well, right? So usually, the good practices for domains are, memorable, easy to spell, hopefully English words, obviously available to buy, and many things like that, right? But there's some higher level concepts as well, and that's got to be the brand that you want to go after. So let's talk about what brand you're going to aim for. And I'm going to give an example of the brand I'm currently trying to create, because I'm currently in the process of starting a small hobby project, and I'm gonna walk you through how I'm gonna create that brand, and that's gonna be in a second. Now I'm just gonna give you a little bit of a background. So the brand is something that's not too specific, because your strategy will change many times, and you don't want to get stuck with something too specific, right? Because the brand will constrain you. Let's say, like in the past, I had a website I still have it. It's still live, but I don't really use it that much. Comehike.com. It was about hiking, so come hike, as in let's go hiking, right? Well, I had the word hike in there, and by the way, comehike.com is also not a bad domain name, right? Very two two words that kind of go well together in the English language. It's fun, it's inviting, easy to spell. Actually, you will laugh, but even with that domain name, people still used to make a mistake. They used to say, "Oh, is it go hike?" No, it's come hike. So sometimes people, you care about your website and your brand, but customers, they don't care and they're busy and they forget. So no matter how easy you think it's going to be for them to remember, they're always going to forget or mess it up. So the easier, the better, right? Okay, so the example of come hike, the hiking was in the brand, right? So if ever I wanted to expand into like mountain climbing or trekking or or anything or running, well, it wouldn't make sense anymore, right? So even though that was not a bad domain name, that brand had some because of that domain, it restricted the brand, right? So that's why a lot of the times when you see brands, they are very general, and what's good about them is even though they are general, they give some hint of what you're going to encounter. So there's going to be a little bit of a hint of the general business area in which that brand operates in, but it's not going to be too specific, right? But it should still be memorable and not, easy to say, easy to remember, all those things, right? So this is something that we're going to look for in the domain. Also, very important, you're going to have to, if once you find a domain that you like, and it's going to be a good URL, it's going to be a good brand for you. The next thing to check, and we won't do it here because I have a whole separate course for this, is you're going to have to check if it's been trademarked, right? Because, well, for what happens if Apple.com or Nike.com is available as a domain name? Of course, they aren't available, but let's say, for example, that they could be. Well, they're trademarked, right? So you couldn't even have that business even if that domain was available. So you're going to have to check for trademarks, but that's later because first we actually have to find the domain that we like. So so let's start shooting for. Now I'm going to kind of explain to you the kind of brand that I am going for, and I'm going to show you the steps of how I'm sort of brainstorming, right? So let me explain to you what I'm actually what I'm doing for my own self. So I have I mean, if you come across my work, you know that I make a lot of educational materials about how to start a business, how to do marketing. So that's my main niche. But I think like most people, I want to help do something good for social causes and maybe even politics or whatever. So I want to start a little hobby project that kind of talks a little bit about social change, basically saving the world, whatever, however you name it, So maybe it will be a little bit of a fun project for me. Who knows? Hope maybe it will become something big, right? And so I don't want to be boring, right? Because I want to stand out, and I think it's going to be a podcast and a YouTube channel thing. So, and because I wanted to stand out, so these are sort of my high-level parameters, right? That kind of little bit of a kind of a brand that does stand out a little bit and does hint that this is going to be about social change, it's going to be unusual, it's going to be improving the world, blah blah blah. Okay, so that's the brand I'm going for at a high level. Now my challenge is to find a very good domain name that makes me look super professional and makes the brand exciting. So when people come across, let's say if they look on the web or if they come across in a when they look for podcasts or YouTube channels, that brand should stand out, right? It should look professional, polished, and it should have a ring to it. Okay. So I originally wrote on so my process to find it was. So now I'm going to explain to you the process I used to find it. What I did was essentially I wrote down on a piece of paper I started to brainstorm, and I kind of just just wrote down the words that I felt that would describe what I am shooting for, right? So the first words, and by the way, you don't see it, but now I'm reading from that scratch paper that I used, the piece of paper. I originally I wanted to help things, right? So I use the word, I noted the word smart, original, people, improve, world, right? So very basic. I started with those very, very basic things, and I kind of started to use the thesaurus to make it like to find additional words. And by the way, just to note, this process should take a few days because you kind of want to go through many, many, many domains. In fact, I'm going to show you a few that I'm kind of settling on right now, but I haven't bought them yet. Again, I'm kind of still trying to think through them. So I was kind of going through them, right? So for example, the first things will be obvious, like improve the world, right? And first of all, this wasn't one of the things that I thought of, but let's talk about it as an example. First of all, it's taken, obviously, because it's a very common thing. Second, even if it wasn't taken, I wouldn't take it because it's too cheesy, right? It's kind of cheesy, it's a bit long, and you know what? I don't want to be all about improve the world, right? I mean, I kind of am, but what if I want to have something edgy or unusual, or right? So this is a little bit too like I feel like it's a little bit too high school, too basic, right? We want to go for something a little bit more polished, a little bit more edgy, a little bit more original. And so I like the idea of world. So that's kind of why not? So let's see what the Earth, nature, microcosm, creation, and basically I'm looking for similar things, right? I don't see anything here. Let's look for something with improve. And by the way, so I'm going to give you this is kind of a shortcut way. Like I'm going to give you my results in a second, but it literally took me hours and hours of doing this. And I'm going to show you what I kind of did, what I was aiming for. But just to let you know, this doesn't happen in a few minutes or 20 minutes. This really happens over time. I spend a couple of hours, maybe an hour here, an hour a day approximately, or over a few days, and my brain sort of got used to the ideas of these brands. And when in my off time, my brain would still sort of work on this problem, and I would sort of just randomly come up with good ideas, right? So half of the time the domains came to me when I wasn't actually in front of the computer. So here we have a lot of words, for example. Going back to the example. So I like the word progress, enhance, right? Revamp may be interesting, maybe a little confusing. Words like ameliorate, don't do them. It's too complicated. You want something simple, sharp, right? So I did this for a while,